my dear BIBLEin365 brothers and sisters. We have arrived at the book of Philemon, and quite a book it is. Actually, it's a very, very short letter, but it is powerful and it is impacting. Why? Because we are talking about three primary characters in this story. The first, of course, is the writer, and that is the Apostle Paul. Next is a person by the name of Philemon. Yes, you've guessed it. And another one by the name of Onesimus. Now, what I think is critically important to grasp here is when you look at the story of the Apostle Paul, Philemon, and Onesimus, you learn of a story of a man who actually had a slave. Now, he was a very righteous slave owner. And when we talk about slave owners back then or slavery back then, we're talking about kind of like an employee-employer type of a relationship. But in this particular case, the person who was the slave was an evil man who deeply hurt the person that he was working for and actually ripped him off and ran away. And the type of rip-off it was appears to have been life-changing and remarkably significant. But apparently, this slave who did this evil got saved by the same person who God used to allow the employer to be saved, and that is the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul not only led the employer to the Lord, but he led the slave to the Lord, the employee. And when that guy ran away and came to hear the gospel preached to him by the Apostle Paul, God got a hold of that man's heart, completely changed his heart, and that's how the book of Philemon ends up getting written. Because the Apostle Paul writes to Philemon and says this, look, I don't want to deprive you of an amazing opportunity you have to experience a blessing that God has for you. So I am not going to demand that you take this guy back and that you embrace him and that you love him. I'm going to give you the opportunity to do it on your own. And of course, we do believe that Philemon did exactly that. But what is remarkable about this story is it teaches us a bunch of really cool lessons. The first lesson that it teaches us is that bitterness is destructive, right? Bitterness is like you drinking poison and expecting that poison to kill the person you're mad at, right? The second thing that we learn is when you develop a heart of forgiveness for whatever circumstance you may have been put in, God has a way of compensating you for that. God has a way of blessing you. God has a way of rewarding you many, many, many times over. And the third thing that we can learn from this, amongst many others, is when we trust in God, our God has a way of taking care of us in a substantially cool and powerful way. And folks, do not forget, God is sovereign. He knows what he's doing. And there isn't any harm that has ever been done to you that's so bad that it makes you irrevocably unforgiving to that person. Because even as unforgivable as that person might be, when you do forgive them, God steps in and he rewards you for all that you've lost and everything you've done. And God's reward is better than anything you ever had to start with in the first place. So think about this when you think of the story of Philemon and the letter that Paul writes. We have an opportunity for redemption, and that redemption comes from walking away from bitterness and anger and embracing God's plan for our life and watching God do great things. Folks, if you're in that place today, walk away from bitterness and let God do something amazing in your life. I'm proud of you guys. We are here, the beginning of the month. We are in November. Christmas is coming. The end of the year is near. God is good, and you guys are almost done. I'm super proud of you. God bless you.